Good morning, Philadelphia, and welcome to another great show of Race on Main. We have a terrific guest, almost 100-year history for this particular guest.
Yeah, Weathers Motors out in Media. They've been around since 1922.
1922, and they have a fantastic story about their dealings with Dodge for almost 100 years.
How to stay in business. And
how to stay in business.
Financial crises and all kinds of stuff like that for all those years.
Yeah, so stay tuned. It should be a great show.
It's going to be great.
Morning, Philadelphia, and welcome to another great edition of Race on Main. We have a terrific show for you. It's actually, in my opinion, one of the more impressive business stories that I've heard in a long time. We're going to be speaking in a short time with Larry Weathers from Weathers Motors in Media, Pennsylvania. It's a fantastic story. They've been in business since 1922, and a few years back when some of the car dealerships pulled contracts from their dealerships, theirs was one that was pulled, the franchise agreement, but they were still able to weather the storm, so to speak, and move forward and do a great job. So it's really a very, very, very impressive story. So we'll be with Larry shortly. But before we get started, I got to introduce my co-host and brother and business partner, Stuart Race. Stuart, it's a warm, late winter.
Well, it's still winter.
It's still winter time.
It's not spring for another couple of days, but we're
another couple weeks.
Yeah, but we're in the 70s, and we're going to be in the 70s all week. And I know you were trying to get away this week to do a little skiing. That might not work out so well.
I don't think so. I think Sunday was our last day, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you have to go. Can you go farther north?
Not really.
No?
It's not good there either. You have to go out west. So, which might be a possibility.
Well, hey, you got to ski, right?
Yeah,
so
that's all I want to do.
I skied this winter for the first time.
How'd it go?
It was tragic.
In what way?
I'm not a skier. I don't know what you call me, but once I go over the edge, I'm committed.
Yeah. Downhill racer.
Yeah, I'm getting down to the bottom in one fell swoop, one way or another.
Right.
It may sometimes it comes out well, and I feel like a beer commercial.
A victory, right?
And other times I feel like a bloody heap.
Yep.
So, but I did learn that when you fall, you put the bottom ski on first again. When it comes off, you put that one on the downhill ski on first, because if you put the uphill ski on, you go.
You could.
And you're down. Yeah. So that's what I learned.
Yep. I saw actually, so I skied Friday with the kids because last Friday they were off from school, and then Saturday because we tried, they love it, and we tried to ski a lot. So Saturday I skied by myself, so it was like my day to not have any kids to be responsible for. So it's not really skiing, it's more like work. So both days that we were there, we saw paraplegics skiing.
Oh, nice.
And they put them in sort of like a skiing rig, and they go with a partner, and all I could think of was the one that I videotaped it because I have a camera on my helmet to videotape the kids. So I was able to videotape them going down because I wanted to see and be able to show Olivia and Jake what it looked like and all that. And what was so impressive is, they're in this rig. It's sort of like a wheelchair almost, chair strapped in with skis on it and handles that they're holding with skis on it. There's a person behind them, a woman was behind them with like a strap around them, guiding them down. So there's an awful lot of weight, and there's this whole initiative to help get kids who might not otherwise be able to go out. So it was kind of neat to see.
Very impressive.
Yeah, it was really neat to see. So,
and now that we spent 5 minutes talking about skiing, I'm going to feel like an idiot transitioning to because we're going to talk about what's Main Street talking about.
Hey, you know what somebody said to me today? One of my clients said today. I said, I'm having a little bit of I was having a tough start to my day, getting the day started. And she said, somewhere in the world, somebody would do anything to have your tough start.
Yeah. Well, we always talk, Abby always talks about first world problems.
Right.
And we always joke about how, compared to somebody who needs to race the elephant to the watering hole,
right?
To get to the fresh water before the elephant gets there,
right,
is not really something that we should complain about.
And get out before the lion gets there,
right?
Right.
So with that said,
yeah,
we're gonna talk about the refugee crisis in Europe.
It's bad.
It's bad, but it might not be as bad as all that.
Okay.
First of all, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if there are refugees, it's bad.
Yeah, if there's one
Right.
refugee, it's been. Yeah, I don't.
Right,
You know,
right. No, I
we walk
understand
this
what you
line
mean.
of
No,
where
I
we want to
understand.
tell Main Street that it's not to not panic.
Right.
And yet, we don't want to say that. Oh, it's okay. There's
Right.
refugees. Just
Don't
get
worry
over
about it.
Right.
Right.
First quarter 2015. So 1 year ago
Yep.
is the time that we have true statistics for. Obviously, it's gone up since then. 200,000 displaced people during that period. So the estimates now, a year later, are somewhere in the 350,000 range. So it's almost doubled. And this is the largest crisis that Europe has had since World War II.
Sure.
In terms of refugees. So the question is, where are these people coming from? Now, the answer is the obvious answer, the thing that we're banging, that the candidates are banging the drum about, and that the media is banging the drum about, is Syria, Afghanistan,
Right.
and Iraq, because they're being displaced by civil wars. Which, is it fair to call it a civil war? I mean, let's call it what it is. It's a war of terrorism.
It's still a war on terrorism, right?
Being
It might
brought-
be dividing.
But it's being brought by terrorists. I mean, that's not. I don't know that that's a.
Right.
I
It's not
mean,
a war among the people.
Yeah,
right.
I don't
That's a
know
little
that
rough.
really can be called a civil war.
Yeah, I
but
agree.
Anyway, you're talking about 58,000, and these numbers are just, you can't conceptualize these numbers, but
You know how I do? This is how people can conceptualize them. Think how many people can fit in the Wells Fargo Center.
Oh, okay, yeah,
You know what
that's
I
a
mean?
good-
Something like
yeah,
that, or
all
the
right.
link, and then you can start to really hone in on like what that really looks like.
okay. Well, given that, you're talking about, basically the link would be filled up with these people, about 58,000, which I know it holds a little bit more than
Right,
that.
but give or take.
58,000 from Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq. Now, they're leaving, they want to get, they're coming through Turkey,
Right.
through the Balkans, they're trying to get to Germany.
Right.
Okay, and you're talking about people that are being displaced almost exclusively by ISIS.
Yeah, that's why you call it a terrorist issue.
However, there are even more people that are fleeing the Balkans. What used to be, when I was a kid, it used to be called Yugoslavia.
Right, right.
Now it's these Kosovo, Macedonia, Serbia, Slovenia, Albania, these countries. And there's actually more people, about 67,000 have come out from that area, and they are leaving because of economic prosperity issues.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, Russia.
But they're refugees.
Squeezes
But they're not leaving. We in this country, our great-grandparents came to seek economic fortune, but they came in through Ellis Island. They came
Right.
in the right way. This is a refugee situation. So the bottom line here is that Turkey is on the block
Yeah.
because they want into the EU. So yesterday or last week, the Turkish prime minister stood essentially, the leader of the country stood up and said, "Okay, we will handle this refugee problem.
You got to let us in.
You got to let us in, and you got to pass."
Of course.
3 billion euros
Yeah,
they want.
I saw that.
So
Look, I mean, imagine all that, and I'm going to call it, and this might not be the right term, but foot traffic through Turkey.
Sure.
There's a cost to
medical
that.
and,
everything.
the whole thing,
I
yeah.
mean, if you look at every service that's going to be needed in order to try to do as good a job handling the delivery of these people from point A to point B, that's a tough nut for them to have to crack.
Oh, sure.
In order
and
economically.
the borders are closing, so they're sort of bottlenecking up at
Making it
in the
worse.
northern
Yep,
border.
yep.
But let's talk about what this means for Main Street. It's actually good, and the reason is that it's ultimately, when this whole thing shakes out, these displaced people are going to improve Europe's economy.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I mean, there's going to be more mouths to feed, more workers, more everything.
Yeah.
It sort of seems like the cream rises to the top. These folks wanted out of a bad place, and they're willing to make the effort.
Yeah.
It says a lot about them. So
A lot of them are skilled. A lot of
Yep,
them are educated.
definitely.
So it's not like a situation. We have this image of here in America of what the rest of the world is like. A lot of these people are engineers and mathematicians.
Yep.
I mean, they're going to improve Europe's economy once Europe gets this all sorted
Right.
out, and that can only be good for the U.S. economy, for Main Street. They're going to buy our products.
Yep, at some point you're right. It might take a few years, but I agree that it's definitely better.
So again, Main Street, don't panic.
yeah, I agree. So what's on the agenda for
Well,
today?
you said foot traffic, and
Yep.
we're going to go from foot traffic to the opposite of that, car traffic, with Larry Weathers III. Larry is the owner-operator of Weathers Motors. He was educated in the Rose Tree Media School District. Go Lions, and shout out to my kids. He's a graduate of the University of Delaware's Civil Engineering program, so go Hens. Spent a total of 26 years in the Navy and Naval Reserves as an officer, working in the Civil Engineering Corps. Larry got to see the world, and he was highly decorated. He retired as a commander in the U.S. Navy. And in 1983, went into the family business at what was then Weathers Dodge, started by his grandfather in 1922. During the time that Larry has been with Weathers Dodge, at the helm of Weathers Dodge, 20 Chrysler 5-star awards, the Delco Chamber of Commerce Business of the Year in 2009, and the National Federated Dealer of the Year in 2011. This guy's got a ton of community service. I can't even begin to go through all of the things, but another shout out to the Rose Tree Media School District. Larry is in the Pencrest Hall of Fame. And I could say more, but let's welcome Larry Weathers to the show. Well, Larry, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Stu, and thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I mean, it's incredible. I know a little bit of the backstory, like I had mentioned, but you guys have been in business since 1922, almost 100 years. We could spend the rest of the time just talking about that. I mean, what you've all seen over that past almost 100 years. Tell us about it.
Well, I think the most interesting point, I remind myself of this daily, at least weekly. I mean, we wouldn't even be there if the whole thing hadn't started out with a family tragedy. My great-grandfather, who had 7 kids, was in a work-related accident and became paralyzed back in the early 1900s. And back in those days, as we all know, there was no such thing as workman's comp insurance. If you got hurt, you got hurt. You had to figure out a way to make it happen. You had to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and get on with it. So my great-grandfather, in a wheelchair, spent many hours up on Route 1 and Route 452 in Lima, better known today as Media, and started selling things like bread, tobacco. Made enough money that he was able to purchase some of the land on that corner there. And they turned it into a grocery store. My grandfather left school at 5th grade to help the family out to make money. When you have 7 kids, expenses aren't like they are today, but you still have expenses.
Sure.
So my grandfather left school in 5th grade, went up, helped with the family store, and then in time he started working. There was a barn that was part of the property, and he started fixing cars, and that really was the beginning of it. If my great-grandfather had not had that accident and been paralyzed, the beginning of the Weathers Dodge, Weathers Motors legacy in the car business would not even have happened.
Is the barn, that's still there, right?
The barn's still there. Yeah. The building that he built around 1920 was a facility that was in front of that, and then when Route 1 was expanded, that building was knocked down, and the present building that we're in now was built in 1947. So the original building of the barn where he started, yes, it's still there.
So let's talk about the car business. Family's been in the business for almost 100 years. Give us, what are some of the changes that have taken place during that time period?
I would say the biggest change, I mean, at least for us, I mean, with the reorganization of all the manufacturers and Chrysler going bankrupt, it certainly changed the whole auto industry around. But I mean, let's start off by talking about a couple of things that haven't changed, and it's really what has really allowed my family, not only in the car business but in other businesses, to start and thrive and stay in business. Everything has been based on honesty and integrity and customer service. And it's so strange to me today that that's all the companies talk about. It seemed like it was the buzzwords that came around about 15, 20 years ago. And to think that my grandfather, even great-grandfather, had the insight back in the early 1900s to know that that's what it takes to start a business and keep a business and have customers coming back. When the customers have faith in what you're doing, and you're honest, and you don't try to take them over, and they come back and they bring their friends back, that's what builds a business. So that part has not changed for 100 years. Yeah. What has changed in the business, 2 things. Number one, the quality of the cars in manufacturing has just increased tenfold. So the amount of work that needs to be done on cars, maintenance-wise, is a whole lot less today than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So all maintenance departments are seeing a little bit less business just because of the quality of all cars. The Americans finally caught up with the Japanese and the foreign cars as far as quality is concerned. So the quality is there, and there's far less repairs. And the warranties on cars. I mean, years and years ago, the warranties were for a couple months, and it got to 6 months, a year, up to 3 years, some 5 years. Some cars have 10-year warranties now.
Yeah.
So that's number one. The other biggest thing, and it started to change with with computers and the internet, is shopping for cars. Any dealership, let's just roll it back 20 years ago, when a customer was going to be coming to market to look at a car, their whole process and their educational process started by getting in their car, driving to different dealerships, visiting the dealerships, hoping that the salespeople are knowledgeable to explain to them features and benefits to figure out which car they want. And they would spend weeks and months doing that. That talk about foot traffic, that brought a lot of foot traffic into dealerships. Foot traffic is down considerably now because all that investigation, all that shopping, all that learning, and you can almost take visual test drives now, is all done on the internet, on smartphones, at their house, in the workplace at lunchtime. And then when they show up or they call, all that time of showing the vehicle and narrowing the funnel down to the type of vehicle that they want, they're basically ready to make the purchase. So that's probably the biggest thing that's happened.
So I have a question about that. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, obviously the smaller foot traffic, probably not, you don't have as many opportunities to introduce people to the products that you're selling. But with them already sort of on that tipping point, if it took them 2 months to really go through that educational process to learn, like, okay, this is the car that I want, this is the dealership that I trust, those kinds of things. Does it make it better now because they walk through the door basically, I'm here to purchase a car, or I'm here to purchase your services?
Well, the answer basically is it can be good and it can be bad. If you're a dealership who has a good internet presence set up, if you have a good website, if you have your name out there so you show up under a Google search, and we won't get into all the technical aspects of the internet, but
sure.
If you make it so that people can find you when they're searching for a vehicle, I mean, it can be a great thing. I mean, one of the biggest things that we have seen, we are selling more cars at 100 miles away from our dealership than we ever have.
Right.
I mean, somebody can be, and we've had them as far as Texas. If somebody finds the car that they want, they will make the deal. Now, when I say out of the zone, I mean, we have them from Virginia, Maryland, New York, Delaware, New Jersey. But before the internet, that was unheard of.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, you basically went and maybe got the newspaper, Sunday paper.
Yep.
Was that thick?
That's
now
right.
it's like
now it's basically gone.
You would get that Sunday edition, and you would flip through the pages, and dealerships would be there, cars would be in there, prices would be in there, and that was a starting point to figure out like where you're going to go. I'm sure some people would drive a little bit, but the internet has just expanded most businesses nationwide and worldwide.
Sure. And just so everybody out there knows, if you want to take a look at the website, it's Weathers Motors, WEATHERS, motors.com. You can take a look and you can check out the dealership. You can check out everything that goes into Weathers Motors, and any help or information you might need is out there for you. So it's changed. So it's good and bad in that there's less foot traffic, but it has expanded sort of the footprint that you could maybe, bring cars to. Is what it sounds like. So,
Larry, how does it work if I'm in Texas and I want to buy a car from Weathers Motors? How does that work?
Well, when it first started to happen, we would get involved in the shipping process, and believe it or not, there's a whole lot of people out there that are in the shipping business. So the shipping of a vehicle is not as expensive as you think.
I've read that
But
actually.
there are some complications. So whenever we do it now, when it's that far away, we give that consumer some avenues of contacts to take care of that on their own. And then the whole shipping process is on them. But usually what you'll find is a person that's that far away, they're already pretty savvy on the fact that they know that that's a piece of the action, and they've already looked into it.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
The other thing, you talk about what has changed over the years, it has definitely driven the selling prices down on all vehicles, whether it's new or used. If you're going to be on the internet, I mean, the number one thing, except for if there's a certain body model somebody wants, the number one thing that's going to attract a consumer to contact you or come look at your vehicle is
The price.
Price. Dollar signs. There's so many cars on the internet now. If you're not in that window of space that's attractive, you won't even be considered. Mm-hmm. So that's probably one of the other biggest things that's happened. Is that good or bad? Well, it makes you sell more volume.
That's where it comes down
But once
to.
you're considered, then it becomes about customer service.
That becomes customer service.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I would love to see. I wonder if we could maybe even grab some pictures of, that you might have. I'd love to see what it looked like in 1922, 1932, 42, 52.
Well, let me ask you.
bet
I've
it's-
seen. I'm a customer. There's an old car in that barn, isn't there?
Yes.
And what's the story behind that?
That car is a 1922 Dodge touring car. That car was actually sold new back in the day, 1922, to a painter in Media. And he traded it back in. And I suppose my grandfather at that point in time says, we're going to keep this one. So that car was actually one that kind of went through the whole loop and came back
about that?
around and
there
kind
it
of
is.
marks the beginning of time.
Yeah, I'll take it. I love cars.
Well, you have to
So
come see it.
I want to come see it.
You're tremendously involved in the community. How is that an aspect of your business? How do you? I mean, I don't want to use terms like leverage or anything like that, but that's part of who you are and part of who you are as the business. How do those two things mesh?
I think the two things mesh, and I guess people would look at it or approach it in different ways. I mean, some people get involved in the community in a very aggressive way to promote their business. We never did it that way. Ours was more of, give back to the community, be involved in the community. They know you have a business, and just by the mere fact of being out there and helping others, being a part of their lives, giving back, people read between the lines, I think, and make the connection between, it blends in with what they've heard from other people that this person's honest, or this company's been honest, or this company over the years has treated people well, and now we see this person out in public and he's helping people, so it must be a true story. So it's not really a hard, bring the hammer down hard, being involved in all the community things, but it's just a nice, subtle way to be out there, to help out and just integrate yourself. And the community's been great to us for a lot of years. We got a lot of loyal customers, still have a lot of loyal customers. Mm-hmm. One of our oldest customers just turned 100 years old.
That's wonderful.
Healthy as can be.
That's great.
On no medicine, and it's great to have customers like that still around.
Sure.
They've been coming there for years.
Well, you know what they say about Delaware County? It's you're a lifer.
You're a lifer.
I have a question for you. It's a little bit related. So Weathers Motors is right by, so people have some idea, is right by where the Granite Run Mall used to be at this point. I know some
Pretty
of
close
it's
to
still
used to
open.
be, yeah.
Very close to there. I'm curious to see what you think, just as a general sort of business approach. Obviously, the mall would normally bring a lot of foot traffic to the small area right there. What do you think about with the changes going on? Does that help or hurt you? Have you contemplated that? I'm assuming that you have. Does it, as it develops into a community, a living community there, do you think it actually works out better for you as a business owner in the community?
Absolutely. I think, and a lot of people fight some of this growth, this expansion. I mean, that's a property that really has been sort of falling off the edge a little bit for the last 15, 20 years. So I think with the program that they have in mind to put more retail stores in there, more retail restaurants, living accommodations, a higher end type living accommodation, I think it's going to attract more people to the whole entire area.
That's great.
Because the mall has kind of been dropping off, people's shopping needs have gone other places.
Right.
So to bring some of them back and to bring traffic back into the area, we don't need more traffic, but we also don't need that mall in the condition that it's in. It needs an uplift, and I think the time is here, and it's going to be great for everybody.
Well, that's good.
Well, good.
That's good. You hear opposing opinions about it, so it's interesting to hear someone who's right in the neighborhood, who has a very successful business, been there a long time, to kind of come in as a very positive thing. I think it will too. I think that's kind of
Hey, Larry, you've been on the same spot for what, 96 years? Good luck for the other 96, for the next 96. I hope that
That's right.
that it works out that way. But thanks for coming out. Thanks for helping us a little bit with your knowledge and your insights. Really appreciate it. And
and don't forget, when you're out there, it's just weathersmotors.com. You can check them out. There's lots of information. So please stop by the website. I'm sure you'll find it great.
good stuff.
Yeah.
So in keeping with the car theme.
Yep.
And I thought that you would like this because
I do like cars.
you're a car guy.
Yeah.
So tell me, what are the 5 fastest production cars ever made?
Like fastest speed-wise or
Speed-wise.
fastest through the production line?
No, fastest speed-wise.
Okay.
These were production cars,
okay,
so they
yep,
weren't
yep.
racing cars. How?
Ducati.
No.
That's wrong. I don't believe you.
Oh my goodness.
And we do this every week.
This was from. I didn't write down where it was from.
Okay,
but
got
it
it.
was-
All right.
The 2 fastest were Bugattis.
Oh, that's what I meant. I said Ducati, which is motorcycle.
Okay, so
yeah, that's
okay.
what I meant. So, I'm sorry.
So
that's my
so the
mistake.
2 Bugattis, one tops out at 258.
Yep.
And the other at 254.
And and just as a side note on the Bugatti, I saw I don't think there's even a road long enough in the United States to get it that fast. They tested it.
Maybe, although I've never been in Utah. I know you're a big fan of McLaren.
Love them.
That's the 3rd one. From 1993, the thing went 230 miles per hour. They only made 64 of them, but it still counts as a production car.
Yeah.
The RUF, R-U-F, have you ever heard of this? Have you ever heard of this?
Have not.
No.
RUF CTR. And then the slowest of the 5, the only one that tops out under 200 miles an hour is the Porsche 959, which is at 197. So, but here's the other thing.
There's no Ferraris that are
No.
over 200.
Nope. The 2 Bugattis, a McLaren, the RUF, and the Porsche.
I have to take a look at the
And
rough.
the
I never
biggest
heard of
run,
that.
by the way, the biggest production run of any of these 5 cars was the Porsche, and they only made 337 of them.
Right.
The fastest one, the Bugatti Veyron Supersport from
Veyron.
2010.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 20
30.
of them. Yeah.
They made 30.
Yeah.
So, but here's a question for you now. The fastest production car in 1922, when Weathers Motors was
Opened.
founded, right, was a Duesenberg.
I was going to say a donkey.
It was a Duesenberg Model A. It topped out at 82 miles per hour. So in
Really?
1922, you could go 80. Now, I don't think you could find a road
Right.
that was paved.
Right.
You could- but if you wanted to buy that car, at that time, the thing sold for like, $1,800.
Right.
Which was very
Pretty
expensive.
substantial, right.
If you wanted one of these things today, and there's probably like 3 in the world, it would cost you $200,000.
It's amazing. See, even in 1922, people loved cars, wanted them to go fast, and wanted the performance of it. Even then, people were pushing the limits there, and that's what leads us to here.
That's
So,
it. All right,
well,
peace out.
hey, look, we thank you, everybody, and we want to thank Larry Weathers. Don't forget weathersmotors.com. And don't forget to check us out on raceonmain.com. We're out there. All of our shows are there. It's a lot of fun. So please stop by. We would love to see you come in and comment on some of the shows, things like that. I also want to remind everybody, as normal, please don't forget all those first responders that are working for you. I had a fantastic conversation with a very good friend of mine, a client of mine as well, who works for the Haverford Police Department. I won't say any more, but he had indicated to me an officer who we were packaging up a gift for. And he said, oh, you're not going to realize, you might not realize this, but he was voted Officer of the Year. So Joe McGibby from the Haverford Police Department, Officer of the Year, congratulations. This is how he became the Officer of the Year. Talk about your days. He was the first to respond to a boy who was drowning in a pool, okay? Jumped in, pulled him out, revived him, and saved the kid's life. So pretty big deal. So Joe, thank you. We appreciate your community support. So we look forward to seeing everybody out on Main Street. Have a great week. Thanks everybody. And don't forget raceonmain.com.